Hey guys, a couple of weeks ago I did a video comparing King Arthur bread flour to Trader Joe's all-purpose flour. And the results were that the Trader Joe's flour actually had really great taste, but it was more dense and heavier, and the rim had more of like a bread type of consistency, whereas the King Arthur bread flour's crust was really lightweight, really strong, and the rim had lots of big air bubbles in there. And so the taste was both great, but King Arthur overall was much better for pizza, for New York style pizza, for that reason, those reasons. Now, when I was doing the video, I told you that the King Arthur has 12.7% protein, and I told you that the Trader Joe's all-purpose flour had 10%. Now, the reason is because if you look at the nutrition facts, the protein content is 3 grams for a 30-gram serving, which would be 10%. So I made the assumption that was 10% protein. Now, I was at this, actually, no, one of the comments from that video pointed out that King Arthur all-purpose flour is 11.7% protein, only 1% less protein than the King Arthur bread flour. And I was at the store looking at it, and you look at the nutrition facts for both the King Arthur flours, and they're identical. It says protein 4 grams for a 30-gram serving. And I was curious, so I actually sent King Arthur an email asking them what's up. And they explained to me that the protein content is actually a fraction, and the government requires them to round to the closest the closest whole number. And so basically, the nutrition facts appear to be the same for the all-purpose flour and the bread flour, but in reality, you're always going to go off of the number on the package, if there is a number. It's more accurate. So King Arthur is a great company. By the way, they responded to me over a weekend on Saturday. Shows you what kind of a company they are. So in short, I don't even know what the real protein content is for the Trader Joe's flour. So I'm curious to see how different King Arthur bread flour is from King Arthur all-purpose flour, if it's only 1% protein difference. To be honest, I would love to use King Arthur all-purpose flour simply because it's easier to find and usually a little bit cheaper. So if this is a good enough substitute for King Arthur bread flour, I'm all for that. So I've got 2 dough balls prepared. We're gonna bake them both and see how they compare. Okay, this is the King Arthur bread flour first. There's not as many options for bread flour in the grocery stores, and sometimes they're all sold out, of the good brands at least. So if I can make all-purpose flour work, the good King Arthur all-purpose flour, I would love that. I made these dough balls last night. They've been in the fridge and at room temperature for about 3 hours. If you watched last week's video by chance, you'll notice that this dough is taking longer to shape. It's more elastic. That's just because it didn't have such a long rise at room temperature as the last one did. And by the way, last year I tried using Signature Select brand bread flour, which is Albertsons and Safeway's signature brand, their aftermarket brand. I was curious because it was a lot cheaper. It's like half price compared to King Arthur. And it had higher protein content. I tried it and it just didn't taste good. It was actually horrible. I mean, not horrible. It was just really bland tasting. So I'm a huge fan of King Arthur flour. $70 grams of crushed tomatoes. I'll put the recipe in the description if you want. It's the same one I've been using for quite a while. $85 grams of low skim mozzarella, or part skim, sorry. Okay, 620 degrees. It's in. I'm gonna check back in 4 minutes. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Oh, it's hot. It's like a beautiful pie. I'm gonna let it cool down and let the oven reheat for about 5 minutes to get that pan back to 620 or so, and then do the other pie. This is the dough ball made with the King Arthur all-purpose flour. I've never done this before. I've never made pizza out of the King Arthur all-purpose flour. I'm excited to see how it goes. I've been using the King Arthur bread flour for so long because it works so good. So far, the dough feels identical to the bread flour. It looks about the same, maybe a little tiny bit weaker. I don't know if the camera can see that, but there's right here, there's a light spot. That's really, really thin. Hey, sorry, the last video stopped recording because my iPhone was all full of storage, so I had to go and delete some old stuff. But I just finished dressing the pizza. This is what it looks like. It's going in just a minute here. Okay, I just checked. The pizza pan is at 615 degrees, so I'm going to put her in. Check back in about 4 minutes. Okay, it's been about 4 minutes, and it's looking about done. So the rim's not as large. Bottom looks about the same. The rim doesn't have quite as much color. I've noticed that when I use the higher protein content flours that the rim gets larger, and as a result, I mean, it's because of more air inside of there, right? So as a result of that air pushing the rim surface out, that makes for a thinner dough, like a thinner crust layer, which results in darker browning. So the rim's not quite as dark. Well, let's take it up there and compare. Hold on. So here's the two. This one, as you can see, it's fluffier and darker. So I'm going to let this cool down for just a minute and then cut it up and do a taste test. Here we go. Let's do a taste test. And let's also compare the inside of that rim. Well, let's do this. Just slice from there. Okay. So the rim of the all-purpose flour still looks really good. See that? There's still some good air bubbles in there. It's just not quite as large, not quite as puffy as the one with bread flour. So you can see here what I was talking about. When the air bubbles get big, the surface of the rim gets really thin, and that just, I don't know if it's pushing it more towards the heat or if it's just easier to brown, but whatever reason, it just browns better when that surface is really thin from the big air bubbles. All right, taste test. That's really good flavor. Wow, tastes really similar. Hmm. I don't know if I can taste the difference. No, I do taste a little tiny difference. I think the bread flour tastes a tiny bit better. It just has a little more flavor. I'm looking at the labels here, and they both say that they're 100% U.S. hard red wheat grown on American farms. I read somewhere a long time ago, though, that one of the ways you can get more protein in a flour is by harvesting, the grain at a different time, like, later or earlier. And one way or the other results in more protein. So I'm guessing that this flour, both flours came from like the same harvest, just they were harvested at a different time. Because they do taste very, very, very similar. It's just the one has more protein. But overall, I like the appearance of the bread flour one. I like the puffiness of the rim and the flavor a tiny bit more. So still, King Arthur bread flour is my choice. It just tastes so good. It looks so good. Performs the best. So this is the best flour I've ever used to make pizza with. So I'm going to keep doing that. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think.